going on? Anyway, what's good in the hood? I'm gonna talk here about the drug war and just drug wars in general throughout all history, because there's nothing new under the sun. Okay. For instance, man, drugs are such a neo-feudal type of an operation. You have these lords that have these peasants that work the fricking fields, and all these drugs that they're fighting, and busting people and throwing people in jail, and there's just millions and trillions of dollars going back and forth from it. Most of them come straight up from plants. So I mean, this is the same thing as the plantation, as the slaves growing fricking tobacco. But they destabilized China back in the day through these opium wars. And frickin' what they were doing, they outlawed opium, which drove up the demand. But the problem was so bad where if you got caught with opium or using opium, they would cut your frickin' head off. And they were also using these opium junkies frickin' over here to build the frickin' railroads. And they used the money from that hustle, that scam there, to fund the first fucking 5 Ivy League colleges, man. I mean, so the colleges are funded from drug money, man. Same thing with the slaves and the plantations, the tobacco. The tobacco, man, it's freaking, it's drug money. You know what I'm saying? In a way, that's how it works. I mean, in a big part was what they say. It was just tea that the Revolutionary War was fought over. And that doesn't make no fucking sense, because you can make tea out of freaking anything, dude. I mean, I've been doing it for a few years now, and it's like, that doesn't make fucking no sense. But it's what they say, But you go look, you got these Chinese or Asians in these little huts, freaking cooking in big fucking vats, man, and they're out there growing shit. And that's who's supplying all that particular product there. And it's like same thing in South America. It's the cocaine comes from a freaking plant. And there's a bunch of freaking dudes, man, in cut off jeans standing around. Some of them got machine guns. And there's other ones working the brew. And transforming it into the product, man. Frickin', they're processing it. But the funny thing is, man, it's like you go back, you look at Mr. Untouchable, which was this black dude in frickin' Harlem back in the 70s or 60s, and he had a plug on some good heroin, and it was like they even had him in, he was like almost like a John Gotti of sorts, where they knew who he was. They even did an interview of him in a magazine, and they called him Mr. Untouchable. But it's crazy. But if you watch that fucking, what was it, the Frank Lucas one, which is, these guys knew each other, this Nicky Barnes character. Whoa. But they were bringing heroin home from Vietnam in frickin' dead bodies from the war. You know what I'm saying? Same year after that, after they get busted, corrupt Nixon signs in the first drug war thing. I mean, and there's even that song. You listen to that song by Steppenwolf called "The Pusher Man," and he goes, "If I was president, I would take all the drug dealers and shoot them in the streets." Like, look, it's deep. But these drugs were being brought in and used to destabilize that whole demographic, dude. You know what I'm saying? So this has happened before, like freaking. And then the cocaine era, you can watch this shit called the Cocaine Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? To get a little picture of the Miami situation. But during both these situations, it's even in the movie how they went in and they busted like hundreds of corrupt cops. And in Miami, during the Cocaine Cowboys era, there wasn't even any uncorrupt anybody. They had to straight up go through and just basically lock up the whole fucking department. It's not as, it's a little crazier out here today than it was yesterday. But this shit, it's an inside freaking job, dude. They're in on it. Freaking the military's in on it. Freaking the government's in on it, and it's a war they're making happen, and they're making money from both sides. They're making money from the drugs because they're really the ones shipping it in, bringing it in, or they're using cutouts, which is a third party basically, that if shit goes south, they're the ones that receive all the publicity, and the other person just fades off into the shadows. But you can watch that, the Rick Ross story, and that's the 80s crack guy. Freaking he was like the head crack guy, but it explains in that how he was being used as a proxy to fund these wars in South America, and that's where all the fucking cocaine was coming from in the first place, was down in South America, and they were using that money to fund and arm certain groups that they would overthrow that country and become democratic, so to speak. Just recently, you know, there's this whole thing with this Afghanistan, and it's been rumored, you know, that the reason they're there is because they're protecting the poppy fields. That's like the golden triangle, just like Vietnam's the golden triangle of the Orient. I guess Afghanistan's the golden triangle of the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? And what's funny, you know, I mean, I called this out right away when I see them say the war on the opium. I'm like, oh man, that means a shipment's coming in. Freaking, and what happened was, it was like they dried it up on the streets. Like, you used to be able to get pharmaceuticals and buy them on the streets, right? But you can't do that anymore because the war on opium. But there was heroin everywhere. It was like they knew this was coming. It's like either you're getting the heroin, or they got this freaking Suboxone clinics. Either way, you're dependent every day. You got to go check in to this doctor guy to get this other kind of dope to get you off another dope. So that's an industry. Somebody's making money off that, right? But what's crazy is what happened was, it's what I heard, during the Boston riots, while all that was going on, all of their pharmaceutical freaking places got broken into, and they say it was probably, it was most likely it was the Popo that did it, and they took all the fentanyl, and then all of a sudden, out here in the streets, you're hearing about all the junkies, man, freaking ODing from this fentanyl stuff, dude. So it's deep. It's like over in Russia, there's this shit called crocodile, right? And it's for heroin addicts. When they can't get no heroin, they do this crocodile shit. But look, it makes their fingers and toes turn black and start to fall off, and their skin looks like a crocodile. So it's called crocodile. But I'm like, dude, the government made that shit and put that shit out there to kill off all their junkies. And that was it's just like when they say the war on terror means they're bringing terror. The war on poverty, it means they're gonna fucking crash the economy. The war on education, freaking, or for education or whatnot, means re-educating and actually dumbing down. So I mean, they speak these backwards and upside down freaking kind of way, man, where, you know, I mean, it's sick. It's evil genius, and it's freaking, who are you gonna call, Ghostbusters? Ooh. But once again, you know, during this crack thing, that's what they were using. I mean, and at the same time, they had don't smoke crack cartoons, and I'd never even seen crack out there, but And they did this dare shit. Freaking where they were like asked every kind of drug, have you tried this? Have you seen this? And what it is like, I didn't know there was that many drugs. They actually spread drugs by trying to do an anti-drug campaign. And they were also selling, look, they anyway, the next part of that war, the war on drugs, where they did the 3 strikes and shit like that, that was Joe Biden that was involved in that. Freaking, and there's it's like they promoted the shit, pushed the shit, and acted in the drug wars, like acting as if they're the saviors and shit, but secretly the same people like higher up are playing both sides of the freaking fence. And look, and everybody, they're making mad money off this shit, and it's killing people, it's destroying families, it was taking us down, corrupting us, like slowly eroding away at freaking stability, man. And they did this shit on purpose. It's a weapon. It's a weaponized. It's a real sneaky, conniving, underhanded, like a really, just really despicable, really, and evil, and quite it's very cunning, and it's sophisticated, dude. And it's top down. It's not like they used to have this. They'd say, hey, ain't none of us, ain't no dudes in the hood own no plane that's grabbing this stuff and bringing it to us. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, there's gotta be somebody somewhere looking the other way, with their hand in the jar. And it seems like, yeah, that's the case. So, I mean, and then at the same time, it creates this kind of this boogeyman atmosphere where makes people more like suspicious, and they're also like racist and bias and prejudice against people, and you want to blame the victims but overlook who's really doing it. You know what I'm saying? Is, once again, this was the perfect problem that you could fix forever and never solve, because there is no solving it, because it was meant to be this way, because it makes way more money for all these industries, for the pharmaceutical industry, from all the freaking these different products, man, in ways they're catching you coming going. I mean, it's freaking insane. But yeah, I just wouldn't. I don't subscribe to it or buy into it anymore. I see what's going on. Once again, it's like I see the societal narcissists who are responsible for, a very, tragic shit in my life, man. There's a lot of drugs have wreaked a lot of havoc on a lot of people, and myself. I've almost drove myself insane in the membrane, so to speak, a few times. And, you know what I'm saying? It's like all this shit, they've made it, ready and available, and they're pushing it out here right now. So they're really using these freaking drugs, man, to, it's kind of like on that movie, Road to Perdition. He says, what was it, man? Everybody has only got money for drinking and hoes, and it was the Great Depression and shit, freaking in there. You know what I'm saying? So when things get worse, man, people even are going to seek out and want to get high more to escape the fact that we're kind of, in a prison. You know what I'm saying? And there's something missing from their life, you know what I mean? That you want to frickin' just drown everything all out all the time. So, but yeah, it's definitely, man, this shit is all by design, man.